Hello, welcome to Mastering Client Management for Creatives. I'm Daniel Osuna, founder of the Nomadx Foundation, and I'm thrilled to have you all today. My journey in the creative industry spans over 2 decades, where I've had the privilege of working with top global brands in the US and LATAM, particularly in the experiential, beverages, tech, lifestyle, and content sector. My work has always centered me around bringing creativity and technical brand development and product innovation together. This has given me a very different perspective and way of looking at things that has allowed me to kind of take a step back when looking at creative products and being able to look at the minutiae of it and see them more as products and less as art, basically. And this has allowed us to basically base everything the Nomadx Foundation is centered on. Definitely one of the biggest and most important hurdles when you want to make your products or your creative products your business and becoming a creative entrepreneur is understanding clients and client management. Clients are people, are humans that are consumers, and as a creative entrepreneur, you're competing with all types of product, and this gives you responsibility of treating every client with the same level of respect and communication that other services, can provide. Now, today I'm joined by another member of the Nomadx Foundation, but also a commercial expert in his own right, Hamlet Espinosa from our studio, a seasoned professional with a decade of storytelling finesse in the audiovisual and production realm. He has transitioned into a commercial strategy for experiential and digital solutions over the past 5 years. Perfect. So, mastering client management for creatives. So, every successful project begins with a clear understanding of what the client needs. This goes beyond their initial request to uncover their true objectives and, more importantly, expectations. In my experience, I dare to say maybe 75% of my clients I've had across many different disciplines do not know the intricacies of the product they want or they're buying. Sometimes they might be asking for something that will really not even solve the issue they need, because they think that what they're purchasing or the service you're providing is something else, or it works in a different way. I'm going to give the floor to Hamlet right now so he can go further into this subject.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here. I think the first point is very important, and I agree. I tend to think that most clients need education, and an education process from our part in trying to find out what they really want. And it's really important not just to guide them to what we think that they should be buying, but actually understanding and asking the right questions and actively listening, so you can understand your client, understand their needs, understand their wants and wishes, and start a journey that will bring a final result that's pleasant to everybody and a pleasant process. To do this, you need to know your product, and you need to know where that fits. You have to be sure what you're selling, what you're offering, what that offer brings to the table, and see how that matches with your client. So I think it's very important to start this journey with the right questions, with actively listening, and finding out how you can better match with each individual project in your own individual offers. I think, and following up on that idea, I think it's important to be able to give your client some homework. If they don't know all the answers, if you're still figuring that out, it's okay to explain what your offer is and have them figure out how that's best going to follow up with them.
Yeah, and to that point, I think client homework is really important. Sometimes we are pushed that we want to make a sale right away. It maybe took us a couple of weeks, to actually schedule, get scheduling done. Maybe some time before that in the lead generation or actual, looking for the client. and you want to make a sale. So, but sometimes it's healthier to actually really take a step back and see the client in a different light. For example, if a client is somebody that is just getting maybe just got hired, and their boss said, I want you to get me a photographer, and we need some pictures of the new products or something, and this person maybe really doesn't have the decision-making abilities. So that's a really big red flag that you need to watch out for. If they're not the decision maker. Or if they don't, or you ask them, okay, so if you want me to take photographs of something, and they don't know how many photographs, they don't know how many products. So if they don't know these details in this point of the conversation, it's really important that you tell them, hey, I think you need to do your homework. Maybe not in those words, but you might say, hey, so I think we need to take a step back, and so we can actually, we don't lose and we respect each other's time. Why don't you? I just really need to know how many pictures you want to get done. How many for this session? How many products? Do you need any other formats? Do you need like vertical format? Are you getting any video? Or do you need anything additional? So I can properly quote you, and you can make the right decision. Also, you try to include the fact that maybe if on the next session, maybe your boss or maybe the person who really is the decision maker can be available, so we can all be on the same page, and we can really move forward. And this leads us to the next point, which is identifying a bad fit. So identifying a bad fit is key. A lot of people don't like to say it, but it's okay to reject clients. It's okay to understand that maybe a client, maybe it's a big company, maybe it's somebody that really doesn't understand the products that you're selling. Maybe it's somebody that doesn't value the products. Identifying a bad fit is super important and super key to working in a healthy environment that you're actually making for yourself. Clients that don't specifically value what your product means. For example, there's a lot of clients that might say, my nephew does what you do, and I could just ask him. Or maybe you want exposure. These are people that are not respecting the value of the product. They're not respecting or understanding. And it's okay to, be respectful, try to educate and say, hey, look, I've done this professionally for X amount of years, and, these are our standards. I live off this. So if we can actually move forward, it'd be great. But if you don't want to, pay these prices, or, I think I think we need to move on. So real world scenario is basically in graphic design. This is very common. Client reaches out through social media. They need a quote urgently. They need they make a hasty description of what they need, and basically they want deliverables at an unreasonable time. So again, you go through these questions. Who is the decision maker? What is their sourcing and provider process? Does this process and sourcing method clash with you? For example, there's clients they're going to be paying T90, or they're going to be paying you wait beat after the work is completed. Maybe that doesn't just work for you as a small creative company. What is your work policy? Asking them if they work on the weekends, if they expect you to work on the weekends, because that's another thing that sometimes there's a little double standard there that clients will not work on weekend and holidays and expect you to. So just really understanding that fit that we were talking about. What made them reach out to you? That's a great question to ask, because if they, basically just cold Googled you, this might mean that they really don't understand you or haven't gotten the proper references. But if they reached out to you specifically because there was a specific reference of work, this really helps you take take them on the journey with you, because you can use that as a reference, but also, you can take that reference and turn it into respect for your product and your work. And then what experiences, learnings have you had in the past with this product? So for example, in design and photography, so you've hired photographers before. So, can I ask, what kind of results did you get? Were you not happy? Why aren't you reaching out to the same photographer? It's key questions to really understand, because a lot of clients sometimes see creative companies as expendable and as one of the bunch. And this really, really tells you a lot about how they think and how they value their providers and partners in creating So the second very important aspect is going to be setting clear terms and expectations. Clear contracts is really, really important. It's once you understand the needs, it's really, really crucial to define things, and well-defined contracts and agreements set the stage for the entire project. It should outline the scope of the work, timelines to deliverables, revisions policy, payment terms. A lot. I can't stress this enough. How many people don't include terms, revisions in their in the quotes they send out? This is really key, because again, a lot of people don't understand our creative products, or what we do, or the time it takes to do these things. So first, it's important that you understand the pitfalls of the creative product that you're doing, or the critical points that maybe might take a lot of resources, might be expensive, might have to buy, material, might be raw material, it might be digital, stock footage or whatever. And changing these things impact, your project. So a little example: so if somebody's is hiring you to do video editing, and that they're okay with certain type of stock footage to buy, and you quote them on it, and then they decide to change it on the fly, it's going to lead to changes. Now, it's really, really a good time right now, because with social media, we're seeing a lot of trends like hashtag no gatekeeping on TikTok and Instagram. And this is very popular in graphic design and plastic arts. It's about how to share the intricacies, or how you work with other people, so other people can learn. And this is something new. It's a great trend, something we really agree with. And it's really important that people don't hide their pricings, don't hide their processes, because it doesn't just allow the community to learn from that. It allows the potential clients to learn from that too, and really understand all the value that is put into a creative product. In creating this contract, you can work on something like LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer. These will give you general contracts, but sites like Upwork and might be more focused towards creators. Legal is also very good. That has a lot of formats that are focused for creative industries. Now, there's also a lot of blogs, a lot of people doing the hashtag, as I said, no gatekeeping kind of thing, and associations like the freelancewritersguide.com. They, even though we don't like that word freelancer here in the Nomadx Foundation, because we believe that's the F word for creatives. We're small companies, we're independent contractors, but we're never freelancers. Again, there's a lot of resources to actually start building your contract. Now, if it's a big contract, it's really, really important that you take the time and the basically resources to actually build a custom contract for that project. In our situation, I'm going to go into one real world example. Then I'll hand it off to Helmut so he can give you another example. But we actually committed an error with a big contract. We had a 50,000 person online viewer an event. It was going to be a week long of activities with an in-person stage, but also 350 collaborators from all over the world sending in videos. And part of the deal with this contract was that the client had to give us those 350 videos beforehand, 15 days prior to the event, so we can actually go through them, review them, see that they work well with our system for streaming, and we can actually create a live experience for the audience. But what happened? They didn't have the videos, so we got to this really, really bad situation where they weren't taking responsibility for not delivering those videos. So we had to make a choice. Either we basically said that we couldn't do the event and leave them in the dust or in the wind, as they say, or actually go in and edit 350 videos and, apply lower thirds and transitions and all these other things, which were not part of the deal. It was extremely, time consuming, extremely resource consuming. We actually took it on ourselves, but then, the event came and went, and we were actually never, compensated for all of those hours of editing and video work, which is extremely expensive and time consuming. And the whole situation really soured the deal because it wasn't clear on the contract the repercussions and the additional costs that it would actually cost them if they didn't hand over these videos. So instead of that internal person taking responsibility and saying, "Hey, I told them that I would get them and I didn't get them, and they actually came through," it just became a person protecting their job and throwing this under the bus. And we went through because we wanted to maintain the relationship and whatnot, but it was ultimately we got a little screwed. And again, it's a huge learning of the importance of, specifically in these big contracts, to actually invest a little in a good lawyer to just really put the terms and so you can get everything clear. In Texas, we have TALA, Texas accountants and lawyers for the arts. You cost maybe $250 a year to be part of TALA, and there's a big pool of pro bono lawyers and accountants that really just help out creative industries in a great deal. And every state there's something similar, so that's a great opportunity. I'm going to hand over to Hamlet so he can share something along the lines with us.
I don't think we can emphasize enough how important a deal having a clear contract is. Something that's happened in different ways to me in different areas, and sometimes you don't see it coming, but it's either your contact and whoever you're doing the creative work with, and whoever's doing the project with you, and whoever's your front end is not the person who pays you. And it's funny how many times you get to finances or you get to the accountant and they're like, "Okay, I don't have the paperwork for this." And maybe you have a lot of a good trust relationship with your client. It's the 10th project you've done and you're not getting paid because somebody doesn't know your work up close. Things like that, and also the fact that your client within a company or within a project can change, make contracts very, very useful. Not just important, but give you a ground to work from. Maybe somebody will come in and say, "Hey, how was this authorized? And what's the timeline? And why is this being done?" And if you only base your projects of trust relationship, that can make things slow. And it's happened many times in many different ways. So everything you've shared is, I think, very valuable. It can be a hassle. The tools you're sharing surely help, but it's so important to have everything well written down, very clear, well signed, in such a way that you feel safe as you start off your project. You can add payment timeline, and you can add a bunch of different things that just make everything much more clear for you, your client. And I would argue the client will be protected in this. So it goes both ways. It's not just for you.
Exactly. One other little detail that I thought of right now that we were speaking is payment. When payment timelines are great, but also payment lack of payment or payment. If they take a longer time to pay, you can actually include clauses that either void the contract or allow or give you extra compensation based on the fact that you are now financing them, and that's another thing. So the next big skill for client management is negotiation. So negotiation is a skill set that basically is finalizing the project terms and addressing changes. It's about finding a balance that benefits both you and the client, and looking for a win-win approach through empathy.
Personal relationships and the correct outcome of those really move the world. And it's very important when you're negotiating with a client. We covered that, or we mentioned that earlier, but you don't do sales just for the sake of it. You have to understand what you want to offer. You have to understand why your client needs it. You have to understand why your competitor might be a better fit, and how you can change that, and how you can actually offer something that's valuable to your client and something that's going to be a sure win for them. You have to understand their constraints, what they're worried about, what they need, what their boundaries are. And you have to be very clear about yours, and I think once those things are understood and brought up to the table and written down, I think that lays the foundation for a very, very pleasant and wonderful project. Empathy goes a long way, putting yourself in your client's shoes, understanding their needs, doing your reverse empathy and communicating how that's going to work, making it clear that while they know what they do and they're experts in their field, whatever you're doing, you're expert in that too. So I think it's important to understand that. I think it's important to prepare. It's important to understand your project deeply, understand how to communicate that, and make sure, and I would like to emphasize this, you can ask 1,000 times just to make sure your client understood, what you're trying to communicate. And you have to be clear, you have to be assertive, and make sure that the groundwork's done. Oh, you can be very flexible once that's done. Once you've laid the groundwork for that, you can be flexible, you can make some changes, but you have to go from a very clear negotiation of what you want, what your client wants, and how you can work together.
I think this takes us to a very there's this very common phrase in all industries, basically, is it's fake it till you make it, and it's okay to actually oversell a little bit, and it allows us for growth. It allows us to constantly grow our endeavors. But there's levels. There's things that sometimes you can't fake, and you shouldn't. If somebody expects a certain level of work and you just simply don't have the capacity for it, or the experience for it, it's okay to say that you're going to need to complement your efforts with somebody else, or outright just recommend somebody else. Because if you take it on and if you're liable and legally bound to deliver, it's not a good fit, and it could actually just spin really, really out of control. Reverse empathy is something that Hamlet mentioned right now, and it's something really important, because sometimes you have to really put it in dashes and lines for and dash and dots for the client. Sometimes really they don't understand, for example, what the process you have to take on. So for example, video is very common that people might see a film and see a photograph. A film, typically you would see Tom Cruise on a screen, and they would be looking at a video, and they'd say enhance, and they would get bigger, and enhance, and it would get bigger. So that that's something that's just not possible right now with AI. It's a little more possible because AI is filling in those gaps, but up to a year ago, it was impossible. It was impossible to make an image or a video that is a certain size bigger and not lose quality. But a lot of people don't know this because, media, movies, or they've never been, taught. And for example, if you tell them, look, this video, once I get all these changes done, it takes me around X amount of hours to just edit it. But then it takes the computer maybe 2 hours, an hour to render. So that's something really that sometimes they don't even understand. Computer is off limits for that time because it's thinking, it's working. And I can't do anything in the meantime. There's no way to do other things on the video while that's being done. And have them really understand what you're going through in that process, because that little empathy sometimes can go into the building of a really healthier relationship. One of the things that I like to say is be carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is this great material which is super, it's 8 times stronger than steel, but it's flexible. It's really, really, really good. That's why it's used a lot in automotive. But you have to be flexible in the requests that your client is handing over. But also you have to be very firm. You have to be very firm in your values. You have to be very firm in your community. So here, for example, if somebody says, I'll give you the project for exposure, or I can only pay you this much, but that the going rate in your community is much higher than that. By actually taking that deal, you are hurting your entire community because you are poorly valuing the product. And that's one of the biggest issues in the creative industry, the value of the products. And if we don't establish those firm guidelines, these things boils over. If they say, hey, I'm just going to get somebody from freelancer.com or one of those things where there's people in other countries, in Pakistan, India, whatever, working for very little money. Let them make. That's not, again, it goes back to client fit. So you really, really have to be flexible, but be firm with your values or beliefs. If it's something that goes against your personal values, it's not worth it. And dealing with difficult negotiations, it's in challenging negotiations. You got to stay calm, be professional, focus on the problem solving rather than conflict. How can we get this done? If the agreement can be reached at the end of all this process, it's okay to walk away. And that's really, really, again, something that we feel that sometimes we can't say, and it's totally, possible to say, hey, we're not a good fit, when you're doing this step of the negotiation.
Based off on this point that saying no is hard, I would just argue that saying no at the right time is healthy. Very often a client will call you, especially if you've already proved your worth, and they might think, oh, he can figure this out, but that's not your area of expertise. That's not what you do. I'll give a simple example. I do a lot of audiovisual projects, and clients will call me for LED screens and lighting and audio and streaming, etc. And some client might call and say, hey, I need flowers. It's a good client. And I might be tempted to say, oh, okay, I can figure out the flowers for you. That's not what I do. I'm not an expert in flowers. If I say yes, I'm going to be worried and stressed and just plain uncomfortable all the while the project's done. And I might not deliver a good project, just because I wasn't able to say no. So it's very healthy to say no. The client can find a better expert, better price probably, and a better product. And so it's good to set that apart. It's also good to understand, and just to emphasize on this, you've already covered it, in client fit. If you're not comfortable with a project, if a client comes to you and it doesn't align with what you do, with what you believe and with your belief system, it's better to walk away. It's healthier for you. It's helpful for the client. It doesn't corrupt your product, it doesn't corrupt the industry, and let's go along.
Effective communication. Okay, this is an area where a lot of creatives start very lacking in. Communication is not just friendly. It's just a key thing of keeping everybody's expectations and understanding of what's going on, at a very close definition. But especially in longer projects, calendars are your friend. It could be simple calendars like Google Calendar, and we're going to go through some of our resources at the end of this session. But establishing dates is just really critical, and communicating these dates, if possible, from the contract. But again, there's also always changes in projects. But calendars are your friend. The best model for projects, in my perspective, is a Gantt chart. A Gantt chart is basically a horizontal version of the calendar where you can see critical points divided by vertical tasks. So you can really divide a project into many tasks. This is great for experiential for events, for activations, for multi-tiered launches, for video production. It's really important in these projects that require maybe a lot of moving pieces. But even if it's just a portrait, if it's a painting, it's really good for your peace of mind and your client's peace of mind to have a set standard for timings. I have a friend. She's a great painter. She's really talented, and she sells her paintings. And one of these things, I once talked to her about it, and she said, "Oh, I have a client, and I don't know when I'm going to be done with that painting." And it's great to be an artist and just be really free and not have a lot of boundaries, but to really have returning clients and a client that maybe looks for you throughout the year or throughout the years for a certain project, that communication goes a long way in building that little trust. And if I purchase something from, we've been educated to purchase consumers, and we buy something from Amazon or a website or something, and if it's not delivered on time, or we're not giving any sort of expectations on timing, it's really hard for the consumer to just go through that again. So it is really healthy to create calendars, to give notifications. Regular checkups and updates are really cool. But remember, be careful when you do an update on a project that it's just descriptive, hey, little email, little message, hey, we're getting rolling on the project, we're starting this phase, everything's going great, and that's it. Don't overshare. It's really a bad idea sometimes in certain audiovisual and design and 3D, all these practices, to share partial advances with people that are not in the industry. Why? Because an image, a 3D rendering or 3D video, for example, looks really different when it's being modeled out than when you've already went through the texturization and the lighting and all these other processes that computers go through to just give it that uniqueness to the output. So it's really important when you're doing updates, you do them, officially through email. Try to use email as a form. So just in case there's any issue, you can actually have a little path, to go through. But be wary of sharing final work or partial work through updates. Why? Because a lot of clients that don't understand your product might get lost in the phases of the project and really not understand. For example, if you're doing architecture, 3D work, all these things, it really messes with their mind if they don't see it how they're expecting to see it, or how they will see it, and down the line once, there's texturization, lighting, all these, computer processes that have to go through the product. This is very common in music in the 3D and video and architecture. And, it's really important to not just share too much, so they don't, if they're not, experienced in the product, but keep them updated and do regular check-ins. Handle your feedback and communication with constructively, and be open-minded, be open to suggestions, guide them through with your expertise, clearly communicate revisions, and when revisions are asked of you, do it in writing. If you have a meeting for updates or whatever, and they actually ask for other things or make changes, ask them to please email you about it. If it's if it's maybe in passing, or if maybe they message you about it. But if it's like a formal meeting, maybe you email them. And per our meeting, you asked me to add this mini whatever to the project. It's gonna increase the cost in this. Just please confirm so we're on the same page. Or it's gonna move the date from this to this because of this change. But just have all those things in writing, because it's very common when you get to a point where clients, you had an initial date of delivery, and they made all these changes, but you're not expanding the calendar as you're going along, and you're not communicating this additional time. And they might, they might say, hey, you sold me that, we would be done by this time, but that whole chain isn't clear. So it's really important that get everything in writing, and especially if it changes costs or timings. So a real world example is a new mezcal brand project I'm working on. A year off. Basically, instead of we have 3 deliverables, we calendarize them, but with this constant, update and check-in process, we actually found new processes or new products that we could sell to the same client, because we were in constant contact, and we saw ideas and like, hey, what do you suggest we do this too? So we ended up like creating 10 new deliverables, that were built, which allowed us to just grow and be more part of this project. So the next step is building long-term relationships. So this is really, really important, because you've delivered a project, creative project. It's sometimes very emotional. It sometimes means a lot to us as creatives. But we also want to maintain those relationships. So again, if you're a painter, if you're a writer, if you're a videographer, it's really, really important to build these long-term relationships. The first question you have to ask yourself is, do you want this relationship with this person? Because sometimes there's people that are difficult. Maybe their product isn't something that really suits you. Maybe the product or the way they expect to receive work doesn't give you the monetary outcome that you're looking for. So just ask yourself if you want it. Again, this is a good time to say if it's a good fit. But nurturing, ongoing relationships becomes, regular check-ins when you're not working on a project together. Keeping lines of communication open. But offer value in these interactions. Just say like, oh, I saw this and I thought of you, or I saw this article, I saw this, this advance, or this could be great for the project if you do it next year again. That's really, really good. But also ask for feedback. It's really important to generate feedback, because if you know the feedback, and especially if you know the feedback that it's going to be positive, it's really, really good, because it takes you into a next question. Say, hey, can you refer me to someone else? And just be very specific about your referrals. Like say like, hey, do you know John in this company? And you already probably know they know each other or they work. And can you give me their contact information and or maybe make an introduction via email? And 99% of the time, if it was a positive interaction, they're going to say yes. And that really just allows you to start broadening your horizons and the possibilities of referrals. And also leveraging completed work for promotion. So it's really simple. You can just say, hey, like, client, you hired me to do X event, but out of my own pocket, I have a video team, and I created a really cool video on social media. I'm going to post it. Would you be okay if I tagged you on it? They're going to say yes. It's great, awesome, and they love having things that make them look better. And you post it, you tag them, you thank them, and they repost. That really just helps you get the ball rolling on more work. But also, you can even go to another level where you actually can ask for a letter of recommendation. For example, in my case, when I generate a good relationship with the key person in a company, CEO, president, directors, I'll ask them for a little recommendation letter. Maybe it's maybe a paragraph long, and this little letter is going to mean a lot in certain circles and allow you to grow and really just dive and penetrate into new markets and bigger companies in a validated way. This is just a great way of getting that validation. And especially because sometimes, the experience that's required in specific fields is very specific. So a lot of people, like in advertising, if you produce for cars and car commercials and like all these, running shots of the trucks and all these things going on, the clients want to know that you're able to do these shots and that you've been able to reproduce these things, because it's really expensive to set up, and if somebody screws up, people get fired. So it's really a good. And then we get to the next point, where it's basically on and offline or online organizational tools. Again, as I mentioned, all the experience. All the specificities of calendars and deadlines and all these things, it sometimes might look a little formal to use a bunch of these tools, but some of them individually just work great by themselves. So for project management, for things that are more complex or maybe involve a lot of people, the biggest tools are Asana, Trello. We use Monday for our digital and experiential projects. Now, for information, we use Dropbox. Everything's on Dropbox, Google Drive. But also, one of the key features that Dropbox has, for example, that Canva and Adobe products also have, is revisions. So you could actually share files or share links and get signatures, revisions, and all these things done within the app. So it just makes that whole revision process more formal and tangible. For internal communication, Slack is by far the biggest one, and it's a great tool. But a lot of people like Microsoft Teams or the Google ecosystem or Google Workspaces, which is they're great too. But again, we use and prefer Slack. Wanted to go through a couple of things that we talked about. So this is Graphic Artists Guild. Here you can see, for example, it's an association for graphical artists, and it has a lot of types of contracts. So you could actually just download them, edit them, make them your own. Freelance Writers Guide. This is they also offer ways to create your contracts. And again, it's about not getting screwed. Creators Legal is a paid service, which is awesome for creators because it's more, niche specific, and it talks a lot about, very specific things that are focused for the creative field. Also great resources, also have a lot of things, but and not just creative projects, but this is more comparative to something like LegalZoom. Dropbox, I have here a little example of how you can have a PDF on Dropbox and actually send it for signature to somebody. You could watermark it, highlight it, edit it. So this is really good for contracts, for updates, for all these other things. But also, as I mentioned, Dropbox has this feature for video, to actually just be able to share notes. The Microsoft ecosystem costs per person around $4, but I think it's a great buy if you actually host your email on Microsoft. You can get this for free. We use Slack, as I said, internally in our work, and it's just a great way to create channels and manage communication. As I said, never use WhatsApp groups or message groups because for work, other than, hey, how far are you, or what time was the meeting, or something simple, but things that require more maybe comprehension or people going back to read really benefit from something like Slack, where you build channels and conversations are about that topic, and you can create threads on the channel. So basically everything is threaded in a very, very cool way. Dropbox has multiple plans too. We use the advanced feature. It's 15 terabytes that we've set up, but again, you just find your own. Canva is a great tool. It starts for free, but the pro version is amazing because it has all these approval sections. It has all these content sections that can get you really, really cool things. Adobe also has the approval process, which is great. And then you also have Trello, which is great for project management, and Monday, which is extremely customizable. So again, these are all just tips and tools to get y'all in a better position, to manage and handle clients in a healthier and better way. And you want to add something to the talk?
No, just appreciate the time. I appreciate everybody tuning in on this and the chance to be part of this.
Perfect. So thank you all for coming in. This was the first Gather session, and hopefully we can do this once a month. The third Tuesday of every month, we can get together and have a Gather session around a subject that really isn't creative specific, but tailored to creative. So I thank you all for coming. Send your questions. Don't forget, the Nomadx Foundation is a 501c3 charity, and we accept donations and suggestions to make this project bigger and better all the time.